Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good morning. It is Saratoga Today on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz, along with my good friend and co-host, Paul Halloran. Good morning as we are speaking to you live on Friday morning, day 2 of Saratoga for our new show, Saratoga Today. Paul, how you doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing great, Howard. They want to keep us on our toes and take races off the turf, and that's okay. We're very pliable here at the HHH Racing Podcast, and we're going to try to give out a few winners even with the extenuating circumstances.
Absolutely. So this is a half an hour show. This show will go until 10:30 Eastern. It'll be a hard out. We do not want to interfere with Talking Horses on NYRA or any other shows. So let me very, very quickly, as our first show here, Paul, explain to the viewers and listeners what's going to happen. First of all, in the background, I have a eastern view here behind me, and it's sunny. So in the morning when it's sunny, there will be a little bit of more light in the background. I apologize for that. First of all, we are going to be either talking about the late pick 5 or the early pick 5. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that will solely depend upon what we're covering on our Wednesdays and Thursday night shows. So because we've already covered the late pick 5 actually we covered that on Bettin Boozin actually covered the late pick 5 on Wednesday. We're going to be emphasizing the early pick 5 today, but again, it's going to change. Every Saratoga Today morning show will be either the early or the late pick 5, and we'll also talk about the stake races during the card as well. We're going to give our top 3 selections for each race that we're covering. We are not going to give out ticket structure and our opinions for a ticket. All of that can be found on our fantastic Saratoga Power Picks. And very briefly, there's information down below the video player. You can go to our website about Saratoga Power Picks. If you're interested in buying the Power Picks for the full meet, there they are. I printed mine. The full meet Power Picks, which again is only weekends throughout the whole meet, are available right now as we speak. If you're interested in only this weekend, that deadline passed last night. You have to buy the individual weekend Power Picks on Mondays through Thursdays. So thank you for joining us today. Let's get right to it, Paul, because as you know, this is a little bit of a shorter show, and we got a lot to talk about. First of all, everything is off the turf today, Paul. Friday at Saratoga, that happened this morning. They got about an inch of rain last night, correct?
Yeah, right after the card. So hats off to NYRA. NYRA moved up, and it cost them money too, by the way. They were 6% down in handle from opening day last year with a bigger crowd. But they did the right thing. They moved up the post times enough so that they finished approximately a half hour earlier than they would have, and a half hour after they finish, rain, thunder, lightning, etc. So hats off to NYRA for doing the right thing yesterday. But, we all know when it rains at Saratoga, it's very rarely a light drizzle. It's usually Armageddon. And so I'm not surprised they were off today. We're going to hope that at a minimum the stakes tomorrow will be on. The forecast today is actually good for during the card. Might have some rain later on tonight, so you'll have to pay attention to what's going to happen tomorrow.
We need your help, everyone. We need your help. We need you to smash that like button at the bottom of the screen. We need you to hit the notification bell. The future of this show, our morning shows, Saratoga Today, which is something brand new on this channel, will only exist if we have many people watching and listening. So please spread the word about our Saratoga Today morning shows. You're about to get some great information for races that we have not talked about yet on this podcast. But if our numbers are great, obviously we'll continue with this show. If our numbers are sort of low, we'll have a decision to make, but we want to bring you the best coverage possible. So again, please tell everyone about the show. Please hit that like button. Please make sure you're listening on our audio platforms if you don't have a chance to watch the show. And of course, our Twitter handles are also on the screen. All right, Paul, let's get right to the sequence here. Let's get to race 1 as I go ahead and bring it up on the screen. Now, Race 1. We've talked about this a lot already with Nick Tamro and many other places. It's a main race, and it's 2-year-old fillies, New York breds, main special weight, with, as of now, a field of 8. And again, we both have Twitter up on our other screens. If people know about scratches, we do not know of scratches as of this moment. But it's a field of 8. And Paul, I don't know about you, but you have to check out the board before you make any real decisions. We're obviously guessing on the bottom of the screen. You're going with the 4, Book of Wisdom for Mott and Alvarado.
Yeah, I believe there's only one horse who started in this race, and it was the one who'll probably stay in. He ran on turf. Here I go again. She ran on turf first time out and really didn't do much. So they're probably not upset about the race. Well, they wanted to run on dirt, obviously, by entering here. Yeah, I went with the 4. It's a little bit of a guess. Pretty good Solimini, who was by Curlin. So the wet track, we're still waiting on the actual condition of the track itself. We're thinking it's going to have some decent moisture in it, though. Relatively bargain horse here, 25 grand, but Mott and Alvarado. Bill won with a first-time starter yesterday, who, talk about watching the board, Howard. That 7 horse yesterday, Sugar High, 8-1 morning line, went off as the 2-1 favorite and won like a 2-1 favorite should. So you do have to watch the board.
Yes, we have a lot of people, by the way, joining. We've got Jared is here. Yeah, Michael is here. Look who's here. Pete Visco is watching. Hey, Pete. Mike Mazzaferro, thank you for your comment. I see that, and that's a new name, so I greatly appreciate Mike you watching the show. We'll make sure we update that. We got Christine Race here. We got a lot of people, so really appreciate it. The other thing I want to mention to everyone, we will have different people hosting. I am not going to be hosting this show all the time. Sometimes Pete is going to be hosting. Sometimes Kyle Roscoe is going to be hosting. Sometimes some of our younger Bettin and Boozin guys will be hosting and co-hosting. So this show is not just about myself, Pete, and Paul, although it will be, I believe, this weekend. It's just the 3 of us. But as we go throughout the meet, we'll have different people hosting and coaching the show. Joe D., greetings from Long Island. Hello, Joe. How you doing? Thanks for joining the show. Again, we've got a lot of new people, Paul. If you are new to the show, please spread the word. We feel this is an excellent podcast with great information. I'm going with the 1 in here. Oh, by the way, the 4, and I'm looking right now on my phone at the workout report, or the DRF workout, but the 4 got a B-. I repeat, a B- workout report. Finished well under her own power in a workout on July, that last work. So pretty good thoughts from the DRF workout report. I'm going with the 1, Run for Your Honey, who had a B workout report in that July 6th. I like the blinkers on. I understand this horse did absolutely no running first time, but certainly is bred for the dirt. And I think Tyler from the inside, Paul, you'd have to think is just going to send, assuming this horse breaks well, and should be a factor. You agree also, you got her second.
Yeah, I do agree, Howard. I as I said, the turf start couldn't have gone much worse. But interestingly, Howard, she took some money in that turf start. She went at 7-2. So, that's a little bit of a tell. $85,000, decent price, New York bred. No reason why a maker horse won't improve second time out. As you say, Tyler figures to be aggressive, especially being down inside in a short race. You really, there's not a lot of room for error as far as slow starts. So, I think the 1 is right in the thick of this.
I want to give special shout outs to people in the chat that I've not seen before. Joe Zakarian. You guys are a great watch and follow. John, thank you very much for commenting and watching the show. We greatly appreciate it. Joe D mentions that Alvarado went up to Saratoga to work Mott's 2-year-olds. I mean, Alvarado is Mott's guy, so that makes a lot of sense. So that will be very interesting to see as well how well he does there. We also have Matt Miller. Matt Miller's up this morning. Nice to meet you.
Well, he's got time, Howard. He's got time. He's got time, Howard. He's got nothing but time for our friend Matt.
Nothing but time. All right. Another horse I just want to mention very quickly. I think the 2 Concerti is interesting. Forget that 99-1, by the way. This is live that we're looking at. There's no money in the pools. Joe Sharp is a sharp guy. The breeding for wet is okay. This is a horse, by Mendelssohn. We'll see. I would let the board be my guide. I know a lot of people mentioned the 6 Awesome Check for Horatio de Paz. Paul is a sharp guy. Neither one of us has that horse in the top 3, but I'm using her. And then the 8 Poseidon's Miss, Carlos David is an excellent early first out trainer. Again, we're not going to take too much longer on this race. You got to watch the board and let the board be your guide to some extent, Paul.
Howard, one other I do want to mention, especially if the track is wet as expected. This 5 Stormy Disco Rico, who's owned by New England folks, is a pretty good wet influence. And Michael Dinney is one of those guys. We all have those people that are in the back of our tiny little brains at Saratoga that when we see their name, we'll remember Lost in Space, danger, 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 Will Robinson. I'm aging myself, but some people in the chat will.
Lost in Space.
Yes.
Love that
danger,
show.
Will Robinson.
All you Lost in Space fans, come on, comment in the chat. Great show.
Well, Mike Dinney is kind of one of those guys. He has won last 5 years. He's 1 for 7 with first-time starters at NYRA. It's usually at a price. I think with the Disco Rico influence, just keep an eye. If this horse takes any money at all, you may want to give him a look. Give her a look.
All right. We got to move along here, Paul. We're used to talking long, but we're going to move on. Race 2. I know. Race 2. Maiden Special. We don't have to talk about this race very much, in my opinion, at least. They're going a mile and 1/8. It's for 3 and up. There's a 3-year-old Dreamlike who almost won the damn Wood Memorial, who is 3 to 5 morning line for Pletcher and Ortiz. This just looks like your obvious single and move on. I don't think there's really much to say here.
Yeah, when I saw the entries come out, Howard, I'm like, that horse is in a maiden race, and then I remembered he almost won the Wood as a maiden.
Yeah.
And Hit Show came back has come back to acquit himself okay. Yeah, the distance is not a question because he ran the 1 1/8 in a Wood. They thought enough to run in the Wood as a maiden. Had eaten up some money, frankly. That would be the only thing if you're looking to make a case against. The horse did go off 20 cents to the dollar as a maiden at Gulfstream and found a way to get beat. So, but yeah, looking at this field, again, if you're playing multis and you're looking to narrow somewhere, this appears to be the spot.
Yeah. Again, if you're just joining the show, welcome to the new show on the HHH Racing podcast, called Saratoga Today. Again, please smash that like button. Tell everyone about the show. We want a lot of people watching and listening. This show will be up on our audio platforms minutes after the show ends at 10:30 Eastern. Please put comments in the chat. It's going to be difficult for us to show a lot of comments because we want to get through the races. Again, we're always going to talk about either the late pick 5 or the early pick 5, ladies and gentlemen. It completely depends upon what we're covering on our Wednesday and Thursday night shows. Today, we're going to be covering the early pick 5. We've already talked about the late pick 5 on the Bettin and Boozin show, episode 30, this past Wednesday. Last thing I want to mention very quickly, the 4 and 5 are both Chad Browns. One is a much lower price than the other. Be aware the 5 might outrun the 4. I am going 3-4, but this race looks pretty obvious to us. Let's go into
Howard. Again, I know we got to go, but if it is wet, look, the 2 is an Arrogate, and the Arrogates are very good on the wet. 22% winners. Ran a good second to Churchill Down in a $120,000 maiden race in the slot.
Okay, thank you for the information. Yeah, we'll have to see. It might be dry today, and the track can dry out quickly. So again, these are tricky situations, Paul. You got to watch the races. You got to look for bias. There was an outside bias yesterday. Who knows what's going to happen today? You got a drying dirt course that can be very tricky. It was already very tiring yesterday. We'll see how it plays today. Optional 62.5 in race 3. Now, this race was taken off the turf. So we do not have scratches as of now, Paul. Is that right? As we're speaking here,
I'm still checking. I'm waiting for our friend, Mr. Serling is always the first to post, and I have not seen him post yet.
So we're guessing a little bit on who's going to be in the race. It's optional 62.5. Now these are going to be a mile and an eighth, correct, Paul? On the dirt, it's not obviously there's no mile and 16th on the dirt, so this will be a
That's
mile and
correct.
eighth on the dirt, correct?
Yes,
The morning
that
line
is correct.
favorite was the number 6 Royalty Interest, who I'd have to believe is going to be scratched. We are both going, as you can see on the scroll there. We're both going with the 7 Quarrel for Bobby Robato and Castellano. Was 8-1 morning line, is going to be much less than that. We are assuming, of course, this horse is running, and we're both going with this horse, not even knowing if she's running, but we're pretty sure that this one is. These girls. What do you like about Quarrel here in this off the turf race?
Well, I like the fact that they, out of the chute, they ran her in 2 circumstances like this, and she ran okay. She ran a good second, and she ran an okay fourth. I guess not okay at those odds, but so again, to me, it was a guessing game as much as who's going to run, as much as how they're going to run. Again, if there's moisture, we'll say it again. The Speightstowns certainly are going to be good in that. Robato is one of those guys. He's 0 for 18 this year, but he's one of those guys who's sneaky good at Saratoga. So it's very much a guessing game, and you need the scratches, but I'm expecting that this race is going to be hit fairly hard by scratches.
I think so. This field's going to be a small field, and I love early speed in these 2-turn races. I really like the improvement this one is showing, Paul. And you could say, well, you might be worried about the mile and eighth. Fair enough. But the fact that she's improving, I think she will get the distance. I think this is a dead send for Castellano. I think this is a very possible wire-to-wire job. Again, this is a bit of a guess, everyone. For those of you that are going to be listening later before the races on our audio platform, again, we do not have scratches right now, so our information and our predictions might not be as accurate as they normally would be, or our guessing here on what's going to happen. But I like the 7 also. I've got the 1 in second. The 1 is Life, Love, and Laughter. I think this horse will stay on. Lemon Drop Kids run very well on the dirt. I don't know if this horse will be in the race, but if she's in the race, I thought she's a bit interesting. We'll just have to see. And Modern Love, who looks to be dirt meant, is very slow on the figs, but it's Ian Wilkes who can improve a horse with Saez, and this horse wants dirt by your buddy Curlin.
Well, yes, and if the dirt is wet, we know that that's not going to be a factor for anyone by my friend Curlin. No. I believe in my revised picks, this horse went from being not in my top 3 to second, as you point out. So, and don't be afraid of the Tampa lines. The Tampa has become a real good alternative in the winter to Gulfstream, especially for turf horses. And Ian Wilkes tried to run this horse on the turf at Tampa. Interestingly, Howard, the race was taken off and the horse ran a monster. So Wilkes said, okay, we'll just stick with the dirt. So that's kind of what drew me to this horse. The fact that they wanted to run her on turf at Tampa. She won on dirt. They kept her on dirt. The second, she split the field from the rail in the second allowance, which is the optional claimer. She was not up for a tag. They protected her, and it's an $825,000 yearling.
Yeah.
So, you
and
put
Ian
that
Wilkes
all together.
I'm sorry.
He's good. Well, that's why you're here. That's why you're hosting. It's because all those days you don't host, there's not going to be anyone to step on anyone's toes. It's going to be awful.
Ian Wilkes is a very patient guy, Paul. So we could see vast, huge improvement out of this too. The 2 is one of the horses on this entire card that I'm very interested to see how she runs, because she might be much better than she has shown, Paul. Let's go on to race 4. Race 4 is the Wilton Stakes, and our picks are on the bottom of the screen there. And as I go ahead and bring up the Equibase, this is a mile on the dirt out of that new chute that they
Wilson,
up again.
The Wilson chute, and the name of the race is the Wilton. Get that straight.
Okay, we'll make sure we're accurate about that. Out of the Wilson chute, this is the Wilton Stakes, 3-year-old fillies. It's a small field of 5. The morning line favorite is number 5, Randomize. Chad's got another one, the number 4, Exceed. We are both going for, wow, we're both going 4-5-3. I guess that's not that unique. It's only a 5-horse field. What is it you like about Exceed here in the Wilton?
Howard, I thought the main thing I liked about her is I thought she ran a really good race, and that 8 Bells was a good race. Although, let me say this, Red Carpet Ready did not run well last weekend, and Money's Gold did not come back and run the way she might be expected. Having said all of that, the way we saw the race live, well, I saw the race live. You were still commuting at that hour of the day. But I thought she ran pretty well and, pretty mischievous. The Oaks winner wins that Acorn, so that's actually not a terrible result. I thought you could almost flip a coin with the 2 Chads, but based on the 8 Bells race, I went with Exceed.
I want to show the Acorn. This is the one, and we're not going to be able to show as many replays as we normally do on our night shows, but I think this was misleading, not misleading, that this trip was not actually worse than it looks on paper. Watch the 8 Exceed. Now, the 7 horse was supposed to be a speed horse in this race. See, the 7 horse doesn't break, and Exceed the 8 breaks fine. Excuse me. The problem is the 7 rushes up outside of the 8, and the 8's in a very uncomfortable spot between horses, not really able to settle and run. And if you watch carefully, you can watch the 8 and the Juddmonte. The jock has a strong hold. She's pulling, and I just don't think this is a real comfortable spot. I know some people say, what's the big deal being between horses? These dirt horses don't usually want to be between horses. And again, you see this 8 sort of is in between now in a weird, uncomfortable spot and has to take back and almost checks and steadies a little bit as the 7 on the outside, right? You can see, look at the jock who's really got a strong hold, and then Pretty Mischievous comes outside of her, and just I never thought the 8 got a real clear run. And we're not going to watch the whole race, but I know it might not seem like much, but to me that did matter, and I really like Exceed at this race. I think this is a very talented horse. I've talked about this horse a lot in our power picks. I'm worried about Randomize just wiring this field, Paul, and getting the lead. I'm hoping the 5 goes to the lead and gets pushed a little bit, and the 4 with Pratt just sits outside and gets a comfortable trip. I'm not worried about the distance. I think in a way the 5 is the horse to beat and is the morning line favorite barely, but I do like Exceed in this spot. And I also would not forget about Sacred Wish, who is improving and has a race over the mud. If the race track comes up wet, Sacred Wish is also a strong possibility here, but I'm going with the 2 Chads.
Yeah, I'm with you on that race, because what happens is when that 7 all of a sudden rushes up outside Exceed, the natural inclination Exceed is wants to go with her, right? And Pratt, obviously, as you pointed out, was had a hold of her, and that's a long run to the turn in that mile and a 16th 1-turn race at Belmont. So I think she was taken out of her game a little bit. I agree. I think Sacred Wish is pretty solid. Would not be shocking if I'm going A, B, and C. She's a classic B for me. But Howard, I have to say this about the Wilton. It's the second running. And do you know who won the first running of the Wilton Stakes? Who's become one of my favorite horses for some reason.
I think I might, because I was there. I think I was there last year. Was it Tarabi?
Tarabi.
Hello, you're surprised about that, right, Paul? That surprises you.
I am very surprised, and Tarabi will always have a big spot in my heart, as you know.
Absolutely. And you want to tell people why, real quick, Paul, and then we'll go on to the last race.
Well, there was a matter of Tarabi completing a $10,000 daily double at the last race of the Grade 1 Gamble. That's all. Just that. No other reason.
Tarabi came through for Paul at the most important moment. All right, Paul. Last race of the Pick 5. Last race we're going to be talking about today. We'll quickly mention the Coronation at the very end. There's our picks there in race 5. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's off the turf. It's a main special weight for New York breds. Scheduled 5.5 on the turf. It's now 5.5 on the dirt. We're both going with the 9 Empire Sky, who looks best looks best assuming the horse is in the race. And I see no reason why the 9 would not be in this race, because some of her best races or his best races have been on dirt.
Yeah, again, back to the guessing game, but the Kendrick will be aggressive. It's a 5.5 furlong race. We think the 9 will stay in. I gave a long look to the 5, mainly because the 5 is run exclusively on dirt. It hasn't run well, but has 2 starts. It did in the Korea debut. Did press the pace, press the decent pace. And by looking at Lucky would be okay if it comes up wet. Although I did make a note, Howard, when the race was on turf, that this horse is a half to a 5-time turf winner. So that note can be thrown out with the morning's trash. But I went with the 9, as you said, based. The 9's one of those horses you say, well, you know what, 0 for 8. It's had 8 chances, but in a race like this, that's probably going to scratch down by at least a couple. That she can run on dirt. It's kind of a process of elimination thing. DeMazy's only started 1 horse at Saratoga in the last 5 years. She's 0 for 1, but she's very solid Monmouth trainer and does well at Tampa. So,
yeah,
there you go.
I threw Street Rod if he's running. He's got some very good works. I have no idea if the 4 is going to run. I thought this is sort of a weak field to me. I was looking for a fresh face. Paul, before we leave the show, let's very quickly, and I mean very quickly, you did an article about race 9, the Coronation, which is now going to be off the turf. Here's the field. Just 1 or 2 seconds on who do you think will be in the race and what your feeling is now that it's going to be off the turf, Paul.
Well, I can tell you who's going to be out because I just texted Brittany Russell, whom I spoke with about Bozzarati, the horse that I wrote about. Bozzarati is out.
Okay.
So my poor friend, Dr. Joel Politi, who was flying in from Columbus, Ohio for the race. Having said that, Brittany Russell's other horse, the main track only, I think will be a well-deserving favorite and an extremely likely winner with this race coming off the turf. We assume that Ward's horse is going to scratch Love Reigns, who's a straight turf horse. I'd have to guess Howard Clement's horse, Love Appeals. If I had to guess, that's probably a scratch.
Yeah, I think so.
So I believe how the 9 becomes the second most likely winner on the card after Dreamlike with this race coming off the turf.
I think so. It's a shame. Hopefully the races tomorrow will be on the turf, or I'm sure the stake races will be on the turf unless they get a lot more rain. Paul Halloran, it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully everyone enjoyed our new show, Saratoga Today. Again, it's a half-an-hour show from 10 to 10:30 Eastern, covering either the early or late pick 5 plus stake races at Saratoga. Smash that like button. Please comment below the video player. Tell all your friends about it. We hope you've enjoyed our first episode of Saratoga Today. Crush your bets at Saratoga Today on Friday. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.